Will Anderson Jr.
Acknowledge me.
How many seconds did it take for you to fall in love with Will Anderson the first time that you met him, Nick?
Yeah, he was actually our first pre-draft visit in 23, and he was here by himself. And you hear a lot of things, obviously, when you go in the program, Alabama, everybody speaks very highly of him, and then you see him up close. And I think what you learn who these people are, like what makes them tick, their personalities. And when everybody kind of, going back to like Stover and CJ and these different players, when everybody arrives at the same endpoint, it sort of resonates and it really confirms everything that you think. So, I mean, Will, he's about work, he's about football, and he wants to be great. And there's plenty of things, and I think he talked the other day about this, some of the things that he's working on in the off season. And you're actually seeing that on the football field translate over. So, everything that those players have received, they've earned it, with their performance. And, can't say enough. D'Amico's talked about Will. Everybody's talked about Will. Will doesn't really like to talk about himself. And there's a selfless nature to him. So, CJ's that way as well. When your best players have that mindset, it sort of trickles down to the rest of the team.
That draft, so you had 2 and you had 12 in that draft as far as picks go. And obviously you wind up with both guys. But when you're sitting at 2 and you're talking to C.J. Stroud and you're talking to Will Anderson, if it's just 2, then you can only get one of those guys. They're not lasting that long. At what point during that whole process, after you kind of met with both guys, and obviously there's other guys in the mix too and whatnot, but at what point are you and D'Amico talking like, we got to get both of these guys,
Yeah, no, as we worked through the spring, it was kind of like, well, look, if we have an opportunity to get both these players on a team, is it worth it?
Yeah.
And the further we went down the road, at some point we said, all right, if we have a chance, let's do it. What, what's there to wait for?
Yeah.
I wonder with defensive line, I don't know, Nick, maybe this is just my perspective on it. It feels like in the last 10 years or so, the level of precision and coaching defensive line as pass rushers and everything, people are talking about shin angle now and all this different stuff that's just I'd never seen a ghost rush in my life until Von Miller started doing it. Is it a different world now? And does that give you, maybe when you look at a guy like Will Anderson who transitioned into a defensive end in college, do you feel like, okay, we can project him out and put some polish there that maybe 10 or 20 years ago you didn't talk about?
No, that's what you have to do, and you have to rely on your coaching and trust your coaches what they're teaching. And pass rushing, as you know, it's very nuanced. So you can't just have one move. You have to have a repertoire and a toolbox, and you have to develop it over time. So that takes coaching, and the players honestly help each other. There's all these different summits now, right? Kittle's got his summit. Von's got his summit. So, and they learn from one another.
And YouTube, got kids see it on YouTube, yeah.
Yeah, and there's pass rushing is very nuanced. Honestly, Latu, the kid that the Colts took, is one of the a more nuanced, advanced rushers for this stage. When you hear him talk about pass rush technique, you're like, whoa. It was really impressive. He's a good football player. He's going to help the Colts. There's no question about it.
When it comes to technique, like a martial artist.
Yeah.
He really, it looks like you're watching a kung fu movie. He's so slippery with his technique.
Pass rush in the end is all hand fighting.
Yeah.
It's about hand-to-hand combat, and then can you train your lower body? Everything starts from the bottom up. It's ground-based, and then you put the hand-to-hand combat in there. So the players that can perfect that, look at TJ, the way he rushes. Is he the quote-unquote player off the edge? Not necessarily. But he's a damn good pass rusher because of the way he contorts his body, the way he uses his hands, his length, his ability to get to the quarterback. It's pass rush is an art, and it's about technique.
Well, yeah, and you can see, because Will played in a lot of 4-eye and 5 techniques.
He looked like a frog in a stance sometimes.
When in college, yeah, yeah. Because that's what they had to read and react and everything. Where the thing that was encouraging to me about him was that when he was on the inside, his hands are lightning quick. But you could see at the beginning of the season, it's a choreography, to get your hands and your feet to work together and everything. And it seemed like he made a lot of progress during last season in getting his hands and feet to work together and understand that you can use your hands, but it's a little different when you're on the outside.
No question. And you're learning a different front structure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Our attack front, the attack front, a lot of teams are using this front. So the way you're positioned, the angle of attack, and then to your point, that coordinating your feet with your hands, that takes a lot of work, no question.